Everyone is so awake today. It's gray and rainy. It's good to see you all. Hello, people on the internet out there. It's so good to be together in any way at all this morning, gathered to worship our Lord, our Master, the one who was given for us. We've been reading through the Bible. It's been an awesome week. We get to dig into the book of Hebrews this morning. I just can't wait. It's going to be great. And we're going to begin our day like we like to do, in prayer and in worship through songs. So I invite y'all to stand together with us and just join us in this prayer. Jesus, you are the one who has come for us. You entered into our sufferings. It was fitting that you, the one who originate our faith, would be made perfect by going through our kind of sufferings, like the book of Hebrews says. We love you because you have been so generous to us. You have been a giver. You are a giver. And we are the ones who receive. We have nothing to bring to you. Yet you, even though we have been your enemies, you come, you receive us, you make us your friends. And you came to this earth, humbling yourself, became like one of us in order to reconcile people to yourself who had rebelled against you. That is incredible. That is incredible generosity. We're going to sing to you about your love that just gives and gives and gives and gives this morning. We need you. We ask you to work as we worship, work as we hear your word. Let your spirit be active among us and wake us up this morning to sing these words to you from our hearts. We love you. Amen. Let's do this. 1, 2, 3, 4. We brought you dust. You gave us gold. Saw us ungrateful, but did not withhold your endless grace. Your endless grace.
Riches for rags, our shame on your crown. Oh, how you loved us, Lord, we could count 1,000 ways. 1,000 ways.
Oh, you know it well. Oh, it never fails. Your love walks through fire and doesn't look back. It never gives less than all that it has. Your love gives. Your love gives. Your love is a heart that breaks for the broken. After the first smile, it keeps on going. It is what it does. It does what it is. Your love gives. Your love gives. You came to earth for us. You came to earth, gentle and meek. When we were strangers, you came to seek and save the lost. never gets less to know that it has your love, yes. Your love, yes. Your love is a heart that breaks for the broken. After the first smile, it keeps on going. It is what it does what it is. Your love, yes. Your love, yes. Yeah. Thanks for singing in there, guys. You go ahead and have a seat.
Hi, I'm Jason, and this is Prov News. Welcome to Providence. We're glad you joined us today, whether you're here in person or online. Before we take a look at the book of Hebrews, here's what's coming up. Here at Providence, it's important for us to stay connected with one another and for us to carry out the mission of the church, even during this roller coaster of a year. If you're new here, we'd love to meet you at our newcomers reception today after this service in the study. The reception lasts about 10 minutes, includes tasty treats, and will give you an opportunity to get to know a little bit more about who we are. If you're unsure where the study is, ask a greeter at the welcome desk out front to point you in the right direction. Christmas doesn't have to be canceled this year. All year, we've been learning to go with the flow, and December 24th, in 2020 fashion, we plan on having an unconventional, yet familiar time of worship in the parking lot. That's right, we're celebrating despite the pandemic. We will have 2 services at 6 o'clock and 7:30 right here in our parking lot. Bring your lawn chairs and blankets, or you can even stay in your car as we sing carols and celebrate together. You can find all this information and more at providencechurch.com/Christmas. We're looking forward to 2021 and excited to tell you that we're working on a brand new Providence website and updated app. Communication is vital here at Providence, and we're always looking for ways to improve our communications and connections with one another. Be on the lookout for these changes coming January 1st. Now, let's hear from our teaching pastor, Chad Sparks, as we continue reading through the New Testament letters in the Journey 2020.
Good morning, everybody. Good to see all of you here today. And I just want to reiterate the fact that we're just, 4 days from Christmas Eve. So on Thursday, it's going to be great. We're going to have, just as Jason just told us, we're going to have everybody that wants to come, please come. We'll have folks that, if you want to remain, we're going to be very careful to remain safe. If you want to stay in your cars with your family, you may do that. We're going to have plenty of space. 6 and 7:30, so it'll be dark outside. We're just so excited about the simplicity of this, the who's in Whoville being able to not let the virus steal Christmas. We're going to have a great time this year. We're going to have, hopefully, weather permitting, we're going to have some fires that are going to be near, so that those of you that want to venture out of your cars, you may. We're just going to sing, guys. It's going to be super simple. No sermon, which I'm particularly excited about. So I can enjoy this like everybody else can. And you know what? I gotta tell you, many of you have already, I've had people already this morning say, well, what about the weather? The weather's supposed to be bad. Our very own Captain Accurate, as he's known, David Aldrich, who's a meteorologist. Many of you know David. He's going to be giving us updates this week. So even today, I think you're going to get updates. So stay on the app, check your email, check different social media, and you'll hear about up to date for us here at Providence about what Christmas Eve is going to be like, so you'll know what to wear. If it gets dangerous, we'll call it off, of course, but if it's not, wouldn't it be perfect if it just started snowing a little bit while we're doing it? Oh, I love it. All right, so hey, we're almost done. We're in the journey. We're coming to a close. We see the airport, we're flying around 30,000 feet. We're about to come in for a landing, and we're in the best part of the Bible, in my opinion. It's the New Testament. And we're seeing some incredible things here. This week we read a lot, didn't we? We read 1st and 2nd Timothy. We read Titus. We read 1st Peter. And then this great big book on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, we read the book of Hebrews. And man, Hebrews is, some people say it's really tough. I'm reading it and it's hard. Others are saying, man, I'm just picking some incredible golden nuggets out of this incredible book that I've never read before. I've heard all of that and more about Hebrews. Well, today, I want to just kind of I want to focus on that big book of Hebrews because it's one that it causes us to think of so many questions, that we have. And so I want to just deal with that this morning. That's what I want to discuss. And yes, it does have to do with Christmas. I hope you'll see that as we're finished today. Now, nobody knows who wrote Hebrews. Even the early church fathers didn't know. Some people guessed that it was Paul because, it's kind of stylistically not Paul, but it's very Pauline or Paul-ish with regard to doctrine, the subjects that are covered there. So it does mention Timothy, so we know it's in the same circle as Paul because Timothy was one of Paul's associates. And the people that are mentioned there are in that same circle. So definitely it's somebody there, but it's written to Jewish believers, okay? Between probably 60 and 70 AD. Now, if you think that through, Christianity's growing, and if to get ourselves in context there of the people that first read the book of Hebrews and who it was written to, there are probably more Gentiles now in the church than there are Jews as the church is growing. And the truth is, persecution has started to heat up in the Roman Empire. They're starting to recognize, all these people are becoming Christians. What is this thing? We don't like it because anything new is a threat to the status quo. And so persecution starts heating up. Now in the church, there's a lot of elderly people now because, hey, it's been a church now for 30 to 40 years, right? I mean, Providence Church has existed for about 25 years. And we're we were a really young church when we started, in Cedar Bluff Middle School, I can tell you. But now, I'm talking about me, are kind of getting older, are we not? Because that's what happens. And so 30 or 40 years after Jesus, you've got people that have been believers for 30 or 40 years. If they were 30 years old when Jesus was around, there's some of them 60, 70 years old, right? So we've got to remember that this movement now has got some time under its belt. And so there's more Gentiles, there's more old people, and then there's a whole new generation who never saw Jesus. They never heard Jesus with their own ears, and many of them have never met an apostle. Many of the apostles have already been martyred, so they haven't even met an apostle. And because of these changes and more, the Jewish people, the Jewish Christians, they're kind of the minority now in the church, becoming more so, as each year goes by. They're becoming nostalgic, and they're kind of longing for the good old days. Has that ever happened to anybody? It happens to me. I got to tell you, I'm struggling with it at Christmas right now. The older I get, the more I understand longing for the good old days, and especially years like this year, right? I think about how much change has happened. I think about, it's funny how, and those of y'all who are younger, you're looking at me like, oh my gosh, you're so old. I just want to tell you, one day, you're going to be like me going, man, I remember back in 2020, it was awesome. And your kids are going to hate the music you like right now. They're going to hate it. And you're going to just pound them with it. That's just the way it is. And you're going to long for the good old days. You're going to talk about Christmases past and all this stuff because that's what we do. And that's what the church was doing then. You see, it's a temptation to hear a song or to see someone you hadn't seen in a long time, an old friend, and to something to spur your memory and to walk down memory road and to kind of want to go back, because that's the nature of getting old. That's just what we do. You'll do it too. Now, I got to tell you, this happened to me recently a couple of times. I went to a funeral recently, and then a couple of weeks ago, I told you guys, I think, maybe I didn't, but when we were all the staff was exposed to COVID, we were in quarantine, and so I went to a church. I didn't go in the church, but we had a drive-in, a church like right next to my house. And I'd always wanted to go there. Of course, obviously, I don't have opportunities to do that because I come here on Sunday. Did you know that? And so I drove to this drive-in church service that they have. That's how this small little church has responded to the COVID thing. But they did the whole thing. They had the old music. Guys, that's the kind of music I grew up on. Maybe some of you did too. And there was a part of me in my heart, I must admit, and I was going, man, with just the piano and the organ playing and the old songs that they were doing, and I was going, gosh, man, I went serious walking down memory lane. I totally had flashbacks of nostalgia. You know what I'm talking about? And it was good. I came home and Darla said, well, what was that like? She was expecting me to grill him, I guess. I don't know. I said, man, it was awesome. I was getting choked up. It was just the greatest thing. Nostalgia is an amazing thing. Some of y'all know what you're thinking. Well, why don't we do that here? Well, because we're in West Knoxville. And you know, things have changed, you know, and we're trying to affect people in our culture. That's what we want to do. I'm not saying that what we do is not good. What we do is we do this on purpose. We're trying to reach the most people we possibly can with the good news of Jesus and take away all those traditional barriers. But I'm an East Tennessee guy. I grew up in a small town. My grandfather was a Baptist pastor. You know what I'm talking about? I mean, this is stuff that was just, I guess, in my DNA in some ways. And I had that moment of nostalgia. And sometimes that nostalgia can be a little bit of a temptation. Now, much more serious than what I'm illustrating here is what was going on with the first readers of the book of Hebrews, what we call the book of Hebrews. The writer of Hebrews, who we don't know who he is, he's definitely Jewish. He has this incredible understanding of the Old Testament and what Judaism was like. He had experienced it, we believe. And so he sees these Jewish believers as they're, you know, Christianity's not a new thing anymore. They're kind of wanting to drift back to Judaism. Now, this is a problem, not because of nostalgia. It's a problem because of doctrine. It's a problem because of the truth and the truth of Jesus and the good news of Jesus who fulfilled the Old Testament. He's saying, don't go back. That's pretty much the theme. He doesn't want people to miss Christ, and he doesn't want people who have found Christ, so it seems, to want to go back. So Hebrews is written to show that Jesus is superior to anything in Judaism and anything that Judaism ever offered. In fact, the words better, more, and greater all appear about 25 times in the book of Hebrews. And if you read that, you saw that. Better, better, better. Greater, greater, greater. More, more, more. Jesus is better. Jesus is greater. Jesus is more. That's the repeated theme. So if Hebrews had a title, what would it be? It would be Jesus is better. And he's telling them that to remind them how nothing succeeds. Nothing outshines Jesus. Nothing is better than Jesus. Not even nostalgia. Now, I'm going to run through these real quick, just kind of skipping the top of it again. We're at the 30,000 foot view, and I want you to hang with me. I'm going to crack open the fire hydrant here a little bit, and we're going to kind of give an overview of Hebrews and see how Jesus is better according to the author here. First of all, Hebrews shows us that Jesus is a better revelation from God. He reveals God better. Look at chapter 1, verse 1. It's how it starts. Long ago, at many times and in many ways, God spoke to our fathers by the prophets. I'm at the Old Testament prophets. But in these last days, he has spoken to us by his Son. We have the full revelation of God. He is fully revealed in Jesus. And he goes on with that. Then he shifts gears and says Jesus is better than the angels. Now, why are the angels here? Who cares about the angels? Well, I'm going to tell you why. Because the angels are the way that the Jews believed God revealed the scriptures, that the angels were a part. They are called messengers of God. And he says the greatest messenger of God, the greatest one who ministers on behalf of God is Jesus. And the whole of chapter 2 is about that. Next one is Jesus is better than Moses. Better than Moses? Can you imagine? It's probably ruffled some feathers of those Jewish folks because Moses was the guy that gave the first 5 books of the Bible and was the greatest leader in Israel's history, they believed. Well, you remember Moses had told them, there's another prophet coming like me, better than me, and you need to listen to him. Well, Jesus is that prophet. In fact, look at chapter 3, verse 3. He says, for Jesus has been counted worthy of more glory than Moses. Next, he says he's better than a Sabbath day. You know, y'all, Jews wanting to go back to, worshiping on Saturday, the Sabbath in the synagogue. But Jesus is so beyond that. He's so better than that. Look at chapter 4, verse 9. There remains a Sabbath rest, he says, for the people of God, talking about the church. For whoever has entered God's rest has also rested from his works as God did from his. Let us therefore strive to enter that rest. Now, what he's saying here is what Jesus said many times when he was on earth, right? We saw this when we were reading the Gospels, is that he is Lord of the Sabbath. The Sabbath, which means rest, and the seventh day in creation where God rested, which looked forward to a rest that we would have, those of us who love God. And we were to remember this Sabbath, right? It's one of the 10 Commandments. Remember the Sabbath, keep it holy. Well, Jesus comes along and he starts doing works and stuff on the Sabbath, and they're like getting all bent out of shape. And it's almost like Jesus baited them for this. You remember seeing this? At least every time you turn around in the Gospels, Jesus is doing something to make everybody mad because he's breaking the Sabbath, and they kept getting upset about it, sometimes even to the point of wanting to stone him. And he said, listen, I am the Lord of the Sabbath. You find your rest in me. And he's making a point. And when he dies on the cross, we understand that Jesus did the works of the law. We'll talk about this more later because Hebrews focuses on this. And when we, by faith, believe in him, we don't have to work in the law. We don't have to obey the law out of ceremony or out of compulsion anymore, because we have our rest from works, as it were, in Jesus, who did the work for us. So then Christians started what? Worshiping on Sunday, right? Why? Because that's the first day of the week when Jesus raised from the dead, in commemoration of the fact that Jesus did the work for us. That's why when there are denominations, even in Christian denominations today, it kind of breaks my heart to see Christian denominations doing what the people of Hebrew were evidently tempted to do, and that is to go back to worshiping on Saturday. I mean, there are denominations like the Seventh-day Adventists, of whom I have friends and who are good people. Most of the people I know that Seventh-day Adventists are great people. I'm not busting on people. I'm just saying that they haven't read the book of Hebrews and understood that Jesus is our Sabbath. If we receive him, we have rest from our works in him. The Sabbath pointed forward to him, and you know what? The rest that we have in Jesus now points forward to the rest that we're going to have when he comes and gets us in heaven. That's the Sabbath rest we look forward to, and that's what Hebrews teaches. Look what it says in Colossians chapter 2, in case you guys think I'm full of garbage here. Here's the deal, Colossians chapter 2, 16. Therefore, let no one pass judgment on you with regard to a festival or a new moon or a Sabbath. Paul, a Pharisee formerly, is saying you don't have to do this anymore. Now, but according to Hebrews chapter 10, there is a reason why we should meet together. Well, I don't want you to think, even in COVID time, I've probably talked to 4 people this week, 2 yesterday, who said, yeah, it's been so great to, we've kind of gotten lazy. People are making confessions because I know I'm speaking to the choir, those of y'all who are here, but we kind of like doing church in our pajamas and turning on the computer and watching that way. Well, should we meet together? Why? COVID's made us ask the question, why should we meet together then? Do we need to meet together? Well, look what it says in Hebrews chapter 10. It says we should consider how to stir up one another to love and good works, not neglecting to meet together as is the habit of some, but encouraging one another, and all the more as you see the day drawing near. Guys, the closer we get to the end, and man, 2020 kind of feels like it, doesn't it? The more we need to be together and encourage each other, the more we need to worship together. Now, I'm thankful that we have the opportunity for live stream and this technology. I'm thankful COVID actually happened when we had the internet and the technology that we have today, because it would have been really, really super hard on the church if we didn't. But let's not forsake, let's not neglect being together. And as soon as this somehow dies down, we're just longing to be back together, because I need y'all, and I think y'all need each other. In fact, I know that if Hebrews is true. Well, let's go to the next thing. Jesus is a better high priest. Man, Hebrews spends like 3 chapters talking about this. Let me just read. Chapter 7, verse 27. Jesus has no need, like those high priests, talking about the high priests of the Old Testament in Judaism, to offer sacrifices daily, first for his own sins and then for those of the people, since Jesus did this once for all when he offered up himself. In other words, the priest's job was to help people to get close to God by being their representative, to pray for them, to offer sacrifices on their behalf so that they could have temporary forgiveness of their sins. And they had to continue to do this. But the priest, because he was a sinner, had to first offer sacrifices for his own sins, right? So you got an imperfect person who has to temporarily take care of his sins so that he can help other imperfect people take care of their sins temporarily. Jesus is a better high priest. Now, some of the Jews would have said, now, whoa, how can Jesus be the high priest like that if he's not from the line of Aaron? Because all the priests were Levites from the line of Aaron. Jesus was from the line of Judah, really the line of David through the tribe of Judah. And so he can't be a Jewish priest. So the guy's writing Hebrews going, I'm reading your mind here. Let me tell you why Jesus is a better high priest. Because he's not after the order of Aaron. He's after the order of, and you ready for a name in the Old Testament? Melchizedek. Now some of y'all were reading this and you're like, Melchizedek? I don't know what that is. I don't know who is that. Well, if you were with us in the journey and you read way back in Genesis, I think it's Genesis chapter 14, if I'm going off the top of my head here. There's this guy who is the king and a priest of the God Most High, it says in Genesis, of Yahweh. And he is in Old Jerusalem, then called Salem. He's a guy by the name of Melchizedek. And Jesus is, according to the writer of Hebrews, he's after the order of Melchizedek, who predated Aaron, and who was more important than Aaron because he was a king and a priest of the Most High God, who Abraham, all of the Jews' father, actually gave tithes to, right? So Hebrews reminds us of this. Jesus is of a higher order of priest. I love this so much. Well, look what it says. Chapter 7, verse 27, I'll just give you a taste. Jesus has no need like those high priests. Well, I've already read that. So Melchizedek, he's above Aaron. He's from Abraham. This is beautiful. So I'm going to move on. He's better. Jesus is also better than the old covenant or any of its institutions, okay? Let me read this to you because there's a new covenant that Jesus said is being brought about in his blood, right? Because he died on the cross. And it's better than the old covenant. The writer of Hebrews in chapter 8, verse 7 says, for if that first covenant had been faultless, there would have been no occasion to look for a second covenant. For God finds fault with them when he says, behold, the days are coming, declares the Lord, when I will establish a new covenant. This is back in Jeremiah. Not like the covenant that I made with their fathers, for this is the covenant that I will make, talking about future with Jesus. I will put my laws into their minds. I will write them on their hearts. I will be their God, and they shall be my people. And they shall not teach, saying, know the Lord, for they shall all know me, from the least of them to the greatest. For I will be merciful toward their iniquities, and I will remember their sins no more. Verse 13, it says, in speaking of a new covenant, he makes the first covenant obsolete. So the old covenant that was based on animal sacrifice and was temporary, the new covenant is based on Jesus' sacrifice, which is better. And I want to just say this. We have a better sacrifice with Jesus. He is a better sacrifice. Chapter 9, verse 14, the writer says, how much more will the blood of Christ, who through the eternal Spirit offered himself without blemish to God, purify our conscience from dead works to serve the living God? Guys, where the old covenant was a way for God to God by good works and through the law, the new covenant is through faith in Christ who did the work for us. So that means that if the new covenant's better, then the new covenant, which is based in faith, is better. Faith is better. In fact, all the saints of old who were saved in the Old Testament, the writer of Hebrews and Paul and other places in the New Testament show us that they were saved not by works, but by faith. And I love chapter 11 because we call it the Faith Hall of Fame chapter. I'm going to just read verse 6. I'm so tempted to jump off into each of these things. They're so distracting for me, but we're going to stay 30,000 feet deep. Look what chapter 11, verse 6 says. Without faith, it is impossible to please God. For whoever would draw near to God must believe that he exists and that he rewards those who seek him. You see, y'all, true faith results in good works. So I want to stand back a little bit and let's just talk about each of these things, okay? Give me the next screen, guys. So Jesus is better than the Old Testament religion. Jesus is better. He's better. He's a better revelation of God. We know God more and more clearly by seeing Jesus. He's better than the angels. He's a better messenger. He ministers to us better. He's better than Moses. He's better than a Sabbath day. He's a better high priest. He's a better covenant. He's a better sacrifice, and he's a better way to God, and that way is through faith. That's Hebrews. And guys, it's something that should remind us to never think of anything replacing Jesus. Now, why am I saying that? Some of y'all are like, I'm not a Jew. I don't have Jewish background. I don't want to go back to the temple or to the, I don't want to go back to the synagogue, and I don't want to go back to Judaism. But you know what? Sometimes there are those who call themselves Christians that start longing for something that they think is better. I heard a guy say one time, I've kind of outgrown my childhood Christianity. Well, what does that mean? In my opinion, that means he never fully understood what Jesus was all about in the first place. Because in Jesus, we have this unimprovable opportunity to worship God and to have a fellowship with God and a walking relationship with God. Everything in my life is made better because of Jesus. Everything, even suffering. And by the way, we're all going to have it. It's made better because of Jesus. Well, I want to look now at this question. Well, what does this have to do with Christmas? Because I know we're all festive. Many of you have your red and your green on, and we're all looking at Christmas trees, and we're just a few days away, and we're all thinking about what gifts we have, what part. I'm going as soon as the second service is over today. I'm going to my mother's house, and we're going to have our family Christmas celebration. That's what we're going to do. So it's that season. Chad, I'm not paying attention right now because I'm thinking of Christmas. What does this have to do with Christmas? Well, can I say it has everything to do with Christmas? And I got to illustrate it this way. My growth in the faith has kind of been, in some ways, and I think Hebrews in this sense, is a little bit like analogous to my growth in Christmas. What do you mean by this? Well, when I was a kid, like all kids, I guess Christmas was my favorite day of the year. Why? Because Santa Claus was coming and I was going to get gifts and it was going to be awesome. I was getting new toys and stuff like that, and I couldn't wait for Christmas. Christmas to me was the greatest day of the year, right? It was so exciting, the suspense, the surprise, getting to spend the day playing with my new toys. It was like a dream, and I longed for that day, and I couldn't, like every other kid, I couldn't go to sleep on Christmas Eve because I just couldn't wait for the next morning. Well, I'm gonna call that, to use a Christmas song, the Here Comes Santa Claus phase of my Christmas understanding, okay? Then, you grow up. I got older, and what I loved kind of shifted a little bit. Now I began to appreciate some of the nostalgia. The thing I look forward to Christmas is not necessarily tearing into gifts, although that was great. But as I got older, I kind of got into the it's beginning to look a lot like Christmas. It's feeling like I love the snow, chances of it anyway. I love the greenery. I love the smell of the Christmas tree. I love the candles. You start getting swept away by this good nostalgia, these great traditions, this sentimental aspects of Christmas. And Christmas became more about family and friends and smells and evergreens and foods and songs and hoping for snow, right? I'll call this the tender Tennessee Christmas phase of my life, okay? Maybe you went through that. But then I got married. I became a dad. Continued to get better. While I continue to love the other phases, right? Still, everybody likes to get a gift. And everybody loves the nostalgia. All of a sudden, there was this new thing that became preeminent to me. I couldn't wait to give stuff, right? Some of you have heard your parents or grandparents when you were a kid say, I would much rather give than to receive, right? And you think they're crazy until you became a parent. And then you realize that seeing your kids open up that gift and the expression on their face and watching them get excited and all of that becomes so much better than, it's almost like you're experiencing it vicariously through them. It's just a wonderful thing to give gifts to other people. And not just that, but to think about, and in our family, we've tried to, over the years, be less about ourselves and more about thinking about how we help others. So to kind of have that shift in your life as adulthood and maturity kind of sits in, you realize the joy of giving. I don't know, I tried to think of a song for this. Maybe it's Michael Bublé's song, The More You Give, The More You'll Have. Or if you want a traditional one, maybe it's Good King Wenceslas, who gave. Funny, there's fewer songs about that than the others. Anyway, while those things are great, did you know that there's even something better than that about Christmas? And y'all are thinking, here comes the cliche. Here it comes. Here comes the preacher. He's going to say, Jesus is the reason for the season. Here it comes. Let's keep Christ in Christmas. I know y'all think I'm about to say a cliche right now. You're about to tune me out because here comes the cliche. No, I'm not going to give you the cliche. See, everybody knows all that, right? Keep Christ in Christmas. Even the Muslims celebrate Christmas. Did you know that? Because they consider Jesus a prophet. And they still celebrate that. Everybody knows. I was funny, I was listening to a podcast this week, and a Jewish guy was the guy giving the podcast, and there was a dialogue going on about how people celebrate holidays. And the Jewish guy, the Jewish podcaster, he was saying, hey, he was kind of embarrassed to admit, he said, I hope my grandmother's not hearing this, but I don't think she listens to podcasts. He said, but we have a tree, and we really get into the Christmas thing. And everybody knows what it's about. I mean, everybody. You must be blind to know that this thing's not about Jesus, you know. But guys, we got the manger scenes, you know. We've won the war on Christmas. Bill O'Reilly did a few years ago. Of course, Christmas is about Christ. Now, December 25th may not be the exact date Jesus was born, but that doesn't matter, right? Well, the whole world sets it aside for honoring Jesus. Even different religions, this is why the cliches fall flat. This is what I mean when I say that there's something better. The incarnate, from carna, the Latin word that means flesh. You know, when you use the English word carnivorous, you know, we're talking about incarnate. It's when God became flesh. That is Christmas. That's all Christmas is. We don't keep Christ in Christmas. We remember that Christmas is celebrating when God, who is the creator of all, almighty, all-powerful, all-present, all-knowing, he in his spirit, he is immutable, he is huge, he somehow, in some incredibly miraculous way, laid aside temporarily his rights as God and took on the form, put on flesh as a baby in a womb of a real woman named Mary. And that's how he chose to come in this world. I don't know about you, but if I was doing the story, I'd come up with a different way of God entering humanity than some backwater place called Bethlehem and this very humble thing. I mean, I think I would have made it a little bit more fantastic, a little bit more noticeable, you know, a little bit more celebration worthy here. But that's not how God chose to do it. He chose to humble himself. And I got to tell you, the longer I've been a believer and the more I've thought about this, and every year trying to think, and be honest with you, you know, every year having to think about how I'm going to stand before you guys and teach every year about Christmas, it's dawned on me and grown on me how profound the incarnation was. And I'm still mining the depths of this. I just want you to think about 3 facets of it this morning. Oh, there's so many more. But just think about this. God becoming flesh, stepping into the human world, is the climax of human history. That's why we mark our calendars by it. Because that was the moment that everything changed. Because everything hinges on Christ. We've seen this in the journey. Everything from the fall, you know, when man entered into sin, the relationship with God, his maker was broken. And then God chose Abraham. He promised he would bless him through a descendant of his seed, singular, and that seed was Jesus, right? Then the myriad promises and glimpses of what the Messiah would be like, the predictions pointing forward to the Messiah that we saw throughout the prophets when we read this year. And who would be, some of the prophets said, God with us, Son of David, the Lamb of God, who would be both, quote, suffering servant and, quote, King of Kings. He would redeem fallen humanity. Now, by the way, next week, I know Christmas is going to happen between now and next Sunday, but we're going to read, for those of y'all who are reading in the journey, we're going to read the book of Revelation. And we're going to kind of see how it all ends. then we're going to study it starting in January. We're going to dig in. Viewing history, guys, through the lens of Jesus gives all history past, and yes, all history that's yet to be written, meaning. All of its meaning. So it's remarkable, the climax of human history is Jesus, but it's also remarkable, secondly, that the creator of the universe humbled himself this way. This isn't a way I would have written a story, of course, but he did this. God became flesh and a baby. Why? So that he could die for those who really don't deserve it, who rebelled against him. But most of all, realizing that God did this for me because I'm a sinner, and for you. He came to save hopeless sinners. There's no one too far gone. There's no sin too great that he can't save you from it and forgive it. Not even my sin. You see, the Bible says he did this for his elect, who he knew before he even made the world. He did this, guys, for you. You were on his mind. That's amazing to me. Wow. See, just like the Hebrews who missed God before they focused on Christ, that may be some of you. Maybe you focused on the sentimental and the traditional this Christmas. Maybe been focused on the materialism, right? That's plenty of Christmas specials like Charlie Brown tell us not to do that, not to be about that. Maybe you've been focused on even the good things about giving gifts and doing good things for others. Maybe all of those things are causing you to be in danger of missing Christ. Don't miss Christ. Don't miss this baby who is God, who became flesh to die so that you could live. Not only is Christmas not the same without Jesus, I'm saying it's weakened and empty without Jesus, but it's irrelevant, I'm saying, without Jesus. You know what? Christmas just becomes like a wintertime festival of mythology and folklore if Jesus isn't the reason, if Jesus isn't all what it's about. It's really nothing but a pagan celebration of sentimentality. Oh, Chad, you're kind of making me mad now. Well, it'll be kind of like, Saturnalia. Have y'all ever heard of Saturnalia? Has anyone ever heard of Saturnalia? Oh, you need to know about Saturnalia. For centuries in the Roman Empire, true here, true. You can look it up yourself. Guys, I didn't know about Saturnalia a week ago, but this week I discovered that there was the greatest celebration, the greatest holiday in the Roman world for centuries was this celebration called Saturnalia. It happened to be a week-long festival in honor of the god Saturn that coincided with the winter solstice in late December. In fact, you can read about this yourself, but let me tell you a little bit about it. According to mythology, the Greek or the Roman god, little g, Saturn, had once reigned in a time past over a golden age of plenty when crops grew without human toil and humanity lived in harmony with nature and with one another. It was a wonderful time, as in olden days of yore, to use the Christmas song, and where everything was wonderful. And so Saturnalia was this celebration of hoping that things were going to be better like that in the Roman Empire. This Saturn also embodied prosperity and wealth. So Saturnalia was this time of, and let me just describe it a little bit. There was a Roman poet called Catullus who called Saturnalia the best of days. It was the most wonderful time of the year, okay? Let's see if you notice any similarities here. It was an occasion for celebration and for visits to friends and loved ones. It's kind of, I'll be home for Saturnalia, okay? And as a celebration of liberty, which it was, slaves were given more freedom across the Roman Empire. Workers were given vacation time. Schools were closed. Courts were not in session. No declaration of war could be made by the Senate. I mean, it was peace on earth, goodwill to men. The holiday was a time of merrymaking, so people were encouraged to sing and take joy. And after the public rituals of Saturnalia, the celebrations all continued at the homes. Now, let me tell you about the decor, okay? Most decorations for Saturnalia across the Roman Empire involved the color of green. Swaths, garlands, wreaths of holly and evergreens. They were hung over doorways and windows and along the stairs. We don't have the pictures up there. I guess we didn't get those. But man, I have pictures that look strangely like, yeah, there you go. Does that kind of resemble like what we've got going on here on the front of the stage? I mean, it's really crazy the way that these things really, the decorations even of Saturnalia looked like Christmas. Wreaths of holly, evergreens. Okay, there were candles everywhere, decoration of stars and sparkly metallic ornaments, which were also placed on trees. Many dressed festively. Some would even don a conical felt cap, which I've got there on this little statue head there. And that was a Saturnalia tradition. Kind of crazy stuff. It just looks so incredible here. By the way, that yo Saturnalia was like Merry Christmas. It was the greeting that everybody would talk about. Yo Saturnalia. I know none of you have ever heard of this. It's true. It was a time of gift giving, especially between friends and family. Gifts could be anything, but traditional gifts included clothes, money, sometimes even gag gifts, but especially toys for children. One tradition was to offer gingerbread men or shortbread cookies. I've got a counter of them at home that my girls have been making. You know, it's crazy that the similarities here continue. One of the things, paper with poetic verses were sometimes attached to the gifts. Basically, it was the equivalent of Hallmark Saturnalia cards, you know, they're crazy. Feasting was an absolute necessity. Guests were invited to eat a delicious dinner, and if people were legal age, they enjoyed wine together. Sometimes people would get drunk. Multiple gatherings and parties were common, which included playing games. Very importantly, though, Saturnalia was giving to the poor, as it was a time of charity. Is this incredible? Does it sound familiar? Some of y'all are like, are you saying, Chad, that Christmas is coming from a pagan holiday? No, I'm actually saying that Christianity, as it increased in number, Christians kind of became the dominant religion of the Roman Empire as people told the good news. And you know what ended up happening is we just kind of basically baptized Saturnalia. And we made it Christian. And I think it's a great thing that we took the good traditions of Saturnalia and turned it into a celebration of the true God who became human. All those fun and festive things. I love that. But here's my point. This is what I don't want you to miss. This is why I told you about Saturnalia. If Christmas just becomes a holiday of traditions, or if it's just about sentimentality, or even if it's just about family and giving, in the future, somebody's going to be teaching others about this curious, forgotten holiday called Christmas, and none of them will have heard about it, just like I told y'all about Saturnalia, because that was a huge holiday celebrated across the Roman Empire for centuries. What didn't it have? It didn't have God becoming flesh to save us, to bring us to himself. That's what it didn't have. And that's what Christmas is. You see, Christmas becomes a profound time of responding to what God has done and I'll give you a couple of ways. By giving us Jesus and imitating Jesus. That's what we can do. We can give to people. And then secondly, we can give to people Jesus. You know, we got to share this good news. What an opportunity Christmas gives us, guys. We talk about this every year. Why would we not, those of us who know about the incarnation, who have received Jesus and the forgiveness of our sins and have a relationship with God, why would we not utilize this opportunity, this most wonderful time of the year, to tell people more, the greatest thing in the universe, not the greatest thing of Christmas, the greatest thing during this time. Let's pray together. Oh, Father, help us as we celebrate to realize, Jesus, that you are better than anything else the world has to offer. You are better than any holiday, any sentimental feeling, anything in the universe. You are better. And help us, God, to make you our focus and to lift you high to everyone in our lives so that they can know you too. We love you in Jesus' name. Amen. Let's stand and sing.
Jesus came for us at the fullness of time. Galatians 4 says, but when the fullness of time came, God sent out his Son, born of a woman, born under the law, in order that he might redeem those under the law, in order that we might receive the adoption. He came to rescue and to adopt and to save us. Long awaited, long looked for. We're going to sing about that together now.
Come thou long expected Jesus, born to set thy people free from our fears and sins. Release us, let us find our rest in thee. Israel's strength and consolation, hope of all the earth, thou art dear desire of every nation, joy
Jesus, Lord of all. Raise the anthem, how loud his praises ring. We crown him Lord of all. In all my sorrow, in all my sorrow, Jesus is better. Make my heart believe. And in every victory, Jesus is better. Make my heart believe. Than any comfort, Jesus is better. Make my heart believe. More than all riches, Jesus is better. Make my heart believe. Our soul declaring, Jesus is better. Make my heart believe. Our song eternal, Jesus is better. Make my heart believe. Glory, glory, we have no other King but Jesus, Lord of all. Glory, glory, we have no other King but Jesus, Lord of all. Raise the anthem, how loud his praises ring. We crown him Lord of all. All right, we're going to wrap our day up singing this carol together about the angels that came and announced his birth. Angels we have heard on high, sweetly singing o'er the plains, and the mountains in reply, echoing their joyous strains. Gloria in excelsis Deo. Gloria in excelsis Deo.
to Bethlehem to see him whose birth the angels sing. Come adore on bended knee, Christ the Lord, the newborn King. See him in the manger lay, whom the choirs of angels praise. Mary, Joseph, led to reign, while our hearts in love we raise. In excelsis Deo, in excelsis Deo. Sing it together. In excelsis Deo. In excelsis Deo. Amen. Amen. Thank you guys so much for singing together today. Don't forget, if you're new with us, we have a newcomers reception happening right after this service, just down this hallway in the study. And other than that, y'all, we'll see you on Christmas Eve right out here in the parking lot. Have a great week. See you.